Some episodes may contain graphic content or sensitive topics, while all episodes will consistently feature offensive language and absurd speculations from two opinionated women on a spiritual journey just trying to figure shit out. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, I'm Heather, and I'm here today with my co-host Sharon.
Hello.
Welcome to Hex Haven.
Before I suggested you read this book, did you ever even think about past lives?
Yeah, I did, but definitely not in like an in-depth way. I had never really, it's not that I didn't consider it to be valid. It's just, I think for a long time, I lived my life kind of like with if I can't see it, if you can't prove it, I don't believe it. And so it was something that's like, maybe. Maybe it's true, maybe it isn't. But
Right.
I think reading this book and also maybe being older and like kind of starting this journey has made me change that like mindset a little bit. I'm a lot more now like if you believe it, then there's power in it, like
Right.
so
And how do you find proof of something like this
yeah,
until you come across a book that
right.
maybe explains it? Like, I mean, how could you find proof that it is something that exists or is real?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
and like I think that I'm learning a lot that there's a lot more things that's just kind of the reality of what it is, especially when it comes to like spiritual things and, religion and stuff like that. It's like nothing is 100% conclusive. It's just about what brings somebody peace. And like if it brings you peace and you believe it, then just roll with it, you
yes.
know?
So I had heard about this book through another podcast that I listened to called Broad Ideas, and they talk about it quite a bit, and they often have guests on it that also have read it or know the author or have gone to classes about like teachings surrounding it. And so I've always been kind of curious about it. And then I finally got the book, and it was probably around the time that my mom had passed away. And for me, it gave me a great deal of comfort to think that her work here wasn't done yet. Like she
Mhm.
still had more opportunity to be earthbound in this realm and still be working on things that have affected her, you know?
Right. Yeah,
So
for
it
sure.
it gave me a great deal of like peace because I've always too, not being a religious person, like I don't believe in that. Like you pass away, get buried, and then you go to heaven and hell. I don't believe that. I don't. I believe your earthly bound body goes into the ground or is cremated or whatever you choose to do with your remains. But where does your soul go? Like that's
Right.
so. Yeah.
In our first recording, remember we talked about the law of attraction
Yes.
and like energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be changed. But like we said, like your soul is energy. It has to go somewhere, and it's definitely a different kind of energy than like physical matter. It's something deeper than that, and we all recognize it. Otherwise, I don't think that we would be capable of such deep thought if that wasn't the case.
Right. And it really has made me think about situations and relationships differently as well. Like,
Mhm.
like when my mom passed away, I mean, she had a lot of unresolved trauma that she never really dealt with.
Mhm.
And to me, I'm like, oh, good. She'll still have the opportunity to work through that and grow from that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And then
Mhm.
even me, I'm like, well, I want to try to work through that and grow from this so that way when I get to my next level, maybe I'm a little more prepared,
For
when
sure.
I get to my next body, you know what I'm saying? So now
Yeah.
I'm trying to be more mindful of my intentions and how I interact with people and what I will allow and not allow around me. And
Yeah.
that has a lot to do with that. Yeah, it's so
For
crazy to me.
sure. So I do want to read you something that really kind of struck me as far as this book goes. And for anybody listening, Heather and I read Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss. And he is was he a psychiatrist?
Prominent
Or a psycho
psychiatrist.
prominent psychiatrist, and it's about a patient of his, changed her name and everything, but he does some hypnotherapy with her, and what comes about is some projections of possible past lives. So really that's what the book is about, is like past lives, and the idea that there are more highly developed souls than yours that are there to kind of guide you and teach you new things. And basic premise is like the point of life is to gain knowledge and grow, and that is how you ascend to a higher being. So it's definitely like a super interesting idea. I think it sparked a lot in both of us for sure.
Yes, it did. I remember, like, you finish reading it and you're like, "Oh, man, we gotta talk about this," you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it really was so good. So highly recommended. We'll like put it in the show notes and everything for people
Absolutely. It's
who
such a
want
good
to read
read.
it. Definitely. But so there's a chapter that like I read it and I was like, I need to go and journal. Actually, there was a couple chapters that I was like, I read it and I had to go and journal. So this was something that I wrote. I wrote, Dr. Weiss at some point starts to explore the idea of the spiritual experience itself, and if that alone could be the reason for Catherine's improved state. Also, he discussed his own friends and family, said he seems happier and lighthearted. I think that this is entirely logical. A spiritual experience like this, or gaining similar insights, has to release some sort of endorphins into your mind. Personally, I get an overwhelming sense of joy, happiness, and understanding when I gain new knowledge. I can't explain it, but it's like a never satiated internal thirst for new knowledge. This is something that started in my early 20s and continues to drive me today. There's no more fulfilling a feeling than learning or experiencing something new. To me, this is the true purpose of life, to learn, deepen my understanding, broaden my horizons so I can leave this world a better place and pass knowledge on to others. And,
Wow.
like, really, that is how I felt about that's kind of how I felt about the whole book,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, I felt the same way. I may not have said it as eloquently as you, but yes, I felt the same way. And you know that learning, I can tell you honestly, if I ever won the lottery and I was a millionaire, I would go back to college and I would get like a
Yes.
PhD in something, whether it be like history or women and gender studies or something.
Mhm.
I would absolutely keep going on to school because I do continually seek knowledge and I'm a
Right.
continual learner, you know?
Right.
So I
Yeah, and
totally understand that.
I think that's, like, why this podcast is so, like, cathartic in a way for both of us,
Yes.
because that's how we both are, and
Yeah,
this is an outlet for us to do that, you know?
it absolutely is. Absolutely is. So what so there's a part in there that, it talks about how um she had ailments and then after he was able to reveal what part of her past life the ailments were from,
Mhm.
he was able to cure her from those ailments.
Yeah, like, fears, right? Was it
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah, okay.
So that part really kind of stuck with me in the sense that, I'm a migraine sufferer. It's always on the left-hand side of my body. And I also like have sinus issues on the left-hand side. Like I always have things that are like wrong on my left-hand side. And like my vision's bad in my left eye, my hearing's bad in my left ear. So it makes me wonder what maybe that's all from a past life. And if I somehow got it explained or figured out, maybe I would not have migraines anymore. Wouldn't that be crazy?
That would be crazy. That would honestly be worth exploring. Like, migraines are the worst.
They're debilitating. They really are
Mhm.
debilitating. And I looked because that work is really done through past life therapy. And I'm like, does anyone even do that locally? Or is that really just something more like California? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the
Like
more progressive states.
more progressive of them, more open-mindedness, is that
Yeah.
Is that only there? And then always for me that even if I found someone locally, how legit
Would it be?
would it
Yeah.
be?
And really, I think, like, when it comes to that, it kind of goes back to the self-trust. Trusting yourself to know the difference between the phony shit and the real shit, you know? Like, I don't think that I always had that kind of trust in myself, but definitely after college, I do now. And with all of the political shit that's going on, my ability to like look at sources with a critical lens instead of a bias lens, I've learned that I actually do have that ability, because I can spot the bullshit from both sides.
Right.
So
I
that is what I kind of try to tell myself when it comes to that, because there are in every kind of thing that you and I have been discussing on this podcast, there are phonies,
absolutely.
and I also believe that some of them are legit.
Well, and here the situation with this though is that you would have to be hypnotized. So if this person's phony baloney and hypnotizing you, what if they're planting things in your head that could affect
Yes.
your ability to trust yourself and know better because now it's something subliminally in you. I mean, think about people that get hypnotized to quit smoking or,
Yeah.
it
Mhm.
what if someone said something to you where now all of a sudden you're like, "Whoa,"
Yeah.
like they
Well,
planted
but
something in you versus extracted something from you.
Yes, I agree. And I know in the book, so the patient, he names her Catherine in the books. She didn't want to go back and listen to her recordings, but he recorded all of her sessions.
That's
And
right, he did.
yeah, and so for me, if I ever did any kind of hypnotherapy, and maybe this is my own trauma, but I would absolutely be listening. I would want a video recorded session.
Right, you're right. I guess that is something you could definitely tell them. Like, I want a video recorded session so I can go back and look and make sure you're not being like, you're addicted to meth when you wake up, like
Yeah, right?
I mean, some wild ass shit
Every
right
time a
there.
bus goes by, or every time
Yeah.
a bus drives by, you're gonna bark like a dog.
Right. Yeah. Like all of a sudden everyone's like, what the hell is wrong with you? And be like, I
Yeah.
don't know. You know?
Oh god.
My gosh. Yeah, that would be wild. But it's definitely something that I want to look more into.
Yeah,
I think it goes along with doing a lot more shadow work, which I need to do. That's a
it's
tough one
hard.
too.
It's hard. And with the shadow work, I find that I have actually practiced shadow work for a long time, but actually, like, learning about shadow work, doing some of these workshops that we've been doing has really made me realize that, especially for someone who has trauma, that's a lifelong journey.
It
And I
is.
have to remind myself too, like, I don't have to overcome it overnight,
Right.
like, I don't know if you journal at all, but I think for me, that is the best way for me to like actively do shadow work because it allows me to sort through my thoughts.
Mhm. I have recently been trying to journal. I used to long time ago. It was such a great way for me to get things out of my head. And then I lost track of doing it and I'm trying to do it more again now that I'm trying to do some shadow work, but it's really hard. I don't think anyone understands what unless you've been through trauma yourself is once it's written on paper to see it there to read it there makes it even more real, and it
And then it
makes you
feels
have to face
permanent.
it again. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and it feels like, "Well, I can't take that back anymore. I can't now it's
Yep.
out there, and
Yes.
someone could find out other than me."
Yeah, and that
Like
is that is why I quit therapy last time, because I was fine up until the point where she wanted me to start putting actual occurrences down on paper. And it was I could write around it all day, and I still can, but when it came to actually writing out the occurrences on paper, it felt too real, too scary, and I quit therapy immediately.
yeah. Yeah.
It
I
sucks. I felt like I failed, but I
No,
think I
but ugh. I
But
think
that's how
that
I felt is if I put it on paper, it's no longer something that's just inside me.
right,
It's
it's
out
no
there.
longer safe inside me, and I think
Mhm.
because I have so many just trust issues,
Yeah.
and then the self-trust, it's like, I don't trust anyone enough to, like, say someone came across that piece of paper. I would be horrified that someone else knew that. You know what I'm saying? So that's a huge, huge struggle for me to be honest with myself, to put myself on this healing journey, but yet to see it written out is,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, it's hard for sure.
yeah.
Maybe I'll bet you they have things like this where you could get like daily or a weekly like journal prompt that maybe doesn't require you to look that deep, but more asks you like to kind of untangle your feelings a little bit deeper. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they gotta have something like that. Like I know they have things where it's like you can get a journal prompt every day, but it'll be like, what do you think about blackbirds? You know?
Right. Yeah.
But I wouldn't want something like that. I would want something like the Sisters Enchanted put out, where it is asking you a question that you maybe wouldn't even consider asking yourself. And those I've done a couple of those, and I'll sometimes I can write page after page after page, because once I start writing, I'm an open book. It just flows out of me, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's just something I need to work on more, and
Yeah,
I'm trying.
for sure. Yeah.
Got years of baggage to unpack here, you
Yeah.
know? But I think that maybe if I got some like a past life therapy, I could see things, maybe things that aren't necessarily affecting me, Heather, but they're things that I brought along from who I was before. Do you know what I'm
Right.
saying? I'm
Yeah, for
sure this
sure.
probably sounds crazy to some people listening, but you got to read the book and you would
Yeah.
understand
Yep.
what this is. But imagine if some of that healing could take away some of maybe like your anxiety or your insecurities. And
Yeah.
then, or you could trust yourself more to where you're just journaling and you're writing and you're able to just throw all that information out there. So I can tell you, as a teenager, I went to therapy and I had a really awful experience with it. Well, you know my situation. I had a really
Yeah.
terrible upbringing, and I went to therapy because I was being rebellious, I mean, Lord. So I was going to therapy, and it was in this old like Victorian house that they converted to like an office, but it wasn't really soundproof and everything kind of echoed. And my mom would be out in the waiting room, and then we would leave and then just yell at me the entire car ride home for the things that I openly spoke about and what I said. So
Yeah.
then the next time I went, I wouldn't say anything. And then, I told the therapist, like, she can hear me. And then they asked my mom to wait outside, and then she was pissed about that. And I'm like, I'm just not going to go anymore. I'm sick of this. Like,
Yeah.
so then I didn't, I would go and I would just sit there. And then they're like, well, if you're not going to talk, I'm like, I'm not, because I get
Yeah.
punished for everything I
Mhm.
tell you. So,
Right.
I'm not going to talk anymore. And then I stopped going, and so from there, huge trust issues.
For
Like,
sure. And I did a lot of therapy from a very young age. My mom was the first like memory of therapy I have was when my mom used to take me, and my mom, she would allow me to speak with the therapist alone, which is something I needed. We all have issues with our mom. So I was
sure.
100% not going to open up to this dude about my issues with my mother with her sitting there.
Right.
So she did like leave, and like I do understand why some parents wouldn't be comfortable with that. I don't know if I would one of my kids does therapy, and I stay with him, but it's because he wants me there, not because
Right.
you know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
But
Well, I also had a nutball sibling, so
yeah.
they would be in the waiting room too. So then I'm like, now I
Mhm.
got two people ganging up on me for something that I feel, and now I'm not
Yeah.
entitled to feel the way I feel. So it just was such an awful, awful experience. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
Right. And like when I was able to be alone, I was okay, but I do remember being a teenager and I did like an initial interview with the counselor, and then they brought my dad in. And that was where things became a little traumatic because my father is not really the type of person to be like, accept that he's part of the problem in some ways. So the minute that the therapist started criticizing him or trying to offer him my perspective on certain things, it was done. Like he started yelling and we walked out. So it was like I
Yeah.
kind of got both sides. Like I had some positive experiences and some that really just kind of not great.
Yeah, my mom's biggest concern is that I was making her look bad. And I
Mhm.
just remember that the therapist would be like, "Well, thinks that like she feels this way and thinks like she was trying to like navigate why
Open up
I
a
felt the way."
pathway.
Yeah, and it just, my mom would sit there and I, act like she was understanding in the element, but I could tell her like foot was moving because she's, like
Yeah,
swinging
her
it because
body
she's,
language, yeah.
yeah, and her arms
You're
are
like, "Oh, great."
folded. Yep, and I'm like, oh God. So now I'm just, and then I'd get grounded until my next therapy session for what I said in
Mhm.
therapy, and I'm like, this is stupid, and you wonder why I'm rebellious. Like you're grounding me for having thoughts and feelings. Like,
Yes.
you know, you wonder why I don't want to come home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and honestly, part of that is also probably just, like, kids were not supposed to have feelings. Kids were
No.
supposed to live up to their parents' expectations. I just posted something today, like, kids should be allowed to be messy, they should be allowed to be loud, they should be allowed to feel feelings, even the negative ones, because
Yeah.
it's what allows them to know that they can be their best selves instead of what I expect them to be, you know? I expect you to be quiet, clean, and pretty, you know?
Well, I come from a generation or an era, I guess, of you should be seen and not heard. That's the
Yes.
expectation of children, seen and
Yep.
not heard.
Yes. Mhm.
And yeah, yeah, you're allowed to be messy and all that. Yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is crazy to think about how, like, mindsets have changed over time when it comes to parenting, because that's just, like, how things were.
Yeah, and
That's how
nobody blinked an eye.
society
That's
functioned.
absolutely,
Kids were not
absolutely.
human beings.
Right. It's so wild how no wonder we have generational trauma. That is legit a thing is
Mhm.
if someone's not stopping it or trying to fix it, it just goes on from generation to generation. I mean, my mom was not an affectionate mom. My grandma was not affectionate. Like I do not come from a family that hugs when they see each other. I think
Mhm.
my mom, I can remember as an adult 2 times that my mom ever said that she loved me.
What?
So, 2 times that my mom
That is
ever said that she loved
insane.
me. I don't come from that. So, knowing that, like my daughter growing up, I always told her that I loved her, I would like hug her, but even then me hugging her felt weird to me because I didn't have that, but it's my
Yeah.
kid. And then when she got to be like a teenager, she's like, "Ugh, I don't want hugs anymore." And now she's an adult that hates when people hug her. And I'm like, I tried so hard to stop that pattern, but I
Yeah.
didn't. I wasn't successful in it, like, because I didn't know how, because it felt uncomfortable for me. Does
Mhm.
that make sense? Like,
For sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so weird. So that's why I'm hoping that when my body moves on, my soul will keep learning because I know I have so much more to learn, especially with healing and generational trauma. Like, I have so much to heal from and so much to learn. And I
For
hope my
sure.
soul gets to keep learning?
Yeah. Yeah, me too, for sure. When I was, like, looking into my birth chart a lot, I found that I had this placement of it's like a comet. I think it's called Chiron. It's Chiron. I'm pretty sure it's a
Okay.
comet. So it was placed in my 12th house.
So it's very similar to your name.
It is, actually. I never thought of that. You're right.
Okay.
But so it's in my 12th house, and the 12th house is about spirituality and intuition. So I did like was looking into this because it was something about astrology that I didn't even know existed, And like what I read is that it could signify that I have trauma of a spiritual nature from a past life.
Shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I really think that's real. That's something I want to find out because I mean, I know I have trauma in this life, but I
Mhm.
also think maybe I was like in a war and had a gunshot to the left side of my head, and that's why I have so much wrong with my head, right? Or maybe
Mhm.
I was someone that had a stroke in a past life, and that's
Yeah, that's definitely
crazy that your
possible.
astrology reconnects all of that for you.
Yeah.
Gosh.
And it also said too that because it's placed there, like I can also draw on spirituality and my intuition to heal myself, which I do, you
Which you
know?
do. Yeah, absolutely.
So I got like goosebumps when cuz I was like, what the hell is
You're
that?
like
Like I've
blowing my mind
never
right now because I'm like, this is it just adds up. When stuff like this adds
Yeah.
up,
And
it's not a coincidence. It adds up, you
so
know?
speaking of that, I also wanted to mention in regards to this book and the idea of you having to gain knowledge to elevate yourself. Have you ever heard of Hermes? He's an Egyptian
Shin
god.
God. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I heard the name, the person, but I don't really know
Yeah.
the details.
Okay, so he wrote a book, the Hermetica. So he wrote the Hermetica and he describes that man is the great miracle, capable of achieving godhood by transcending the stages of being that separate him from the divine. It requires strict adherence of maintaining the outer and inner temple, which is your mind and your body. And then you also have to use these three tools: astrology, alchemy, and magic. Using all three is what is supposed to ensure that your soul transcends into a godlike form. So you use these tools to gain knowledge during your physical life, and you are eventually rewarded with transcendence. So what I was asking myself is like, did Hermes unlock an early version of what Catherine is experiencing and like hearing from the masters
Oh my
in the
gosh.
book?
I I would have to think that, yeah, you uncovered something. Holy cow.
Yeah,
That
I was
is
like, this is fucking
insane.
fascinating. Like,
It's wild. So he wrote a book about this like phenomenon, I guess to
yeah.
say.
So Hermes came up with the idea of something called high magic, and the issue with that I have with high magic is that it is very strict, very regimented. There are very specific ways that you have to go about creating your magical tools. There are very specific ways you have to go about meditating, setting up your altar, how you pray, like how you do your spell work. You have to have like the right colors with the right elements and in the right locations, and
Sure.
so it's very strict, but like so that's why I've never really like explored it any further because that's
Right.
just not for me. I'm
No,
about
that's not for
chaos.
me either. I mean, I like regiment, I do like routine.
hmm
I like structure.
I like structuring my own routine is
Right.
I think
Yes.
my issue
Yes.
is.
Yep. Exactly. Like
I don't
I
want
do.
no one telling me what to do.
And I've said it before, but on the pagan group that we're in, like when someone says, like, I need help getting rid of an unwanted guest, 50 people respond and they all respond with a different solution for it, you know? And
Yep.
but I still like the structure, the base of it.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Did you look into like, is the book still sold?
Oh yeah, you can get it anywhere.
I was hesitant to read the book about past lives only because I didn't want it to read like a ancient structured instruction manual. Because a lot of times there's so much verbiage in it and you're like, "What? Like what am I even absorbing from this?" And it's hard to read material. And so I was hesitant to read it, but then when I finally did, I was like, "Oh, this is nothing like I was expecting it to be?" So
Yeah, for
I'd
sure.
be curious to see how that book is written, like the structure of it, if it's like, reading an ancient writing where you're like, what does this mean? Or if it's
Right.
actually a readable book where you can enjoy and take something from it?
For sure. I mean, I'm sure having it be so old and from Egypt,
it's
I'm
definitely
sure
gonna
that it's gonna require, like, you'll wanna probably get, like, a form of the book that has, like, translations or something like that. I'm
yeah,
sure they got that.
yeah.
Because like, for me, there's some books where I'm just like, "What the fuck is this shit?" Like, super
Mhm.
old books. I'm like, "I don't fucking understand a word of this."
Yeah, you can, like, reread a paragraph, like, 10 times, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening here. Like, what am I
Right.
reading? Like, it doesn't make sense, you can't find a part of it that's relatable to where you can be like, "Oh, this is what's happening." And,
Right.
I'm like, "No, that's not for me." Then I've lost interest if it's something
Yeah.
like that?
Right,
So
it's like reading the Bible. Like,
right.
I mean, even the Bible, some parts of it you can understand, but I'm not gonna lie, man, and it's been a while since I read it, but, like, there are parts of the Bible that I'm like, "What the fuck are you even talking about?" Like
Right. Well, that's why so many people have their own interpretations because
mhm.
nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about. So it's
Yeah,
basically what you take away from it in certain sections?
for sure. Yeah.
It's craziness. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. I would love to see if there's ever something in our area, past life convention or like even just like a speaker that's public
Mhm.
speaking about it. I wouldn't mind like attending some seminar or something just to get,
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep that kind of stuff on my radar right now because I'm like I'm so curious about it.
For sure. I am too. I haven't really seen anything like a seminar or workshop or anything like that. I did like come across a couple other like scholarly sources that we could kind of look into if we wanted to like learn more. Have you ever heard of Carl Jung? Carl Jung, he came up with the idea of collective unconscious.
Okay. And the name is familiar. Maybe I've read it somewhere in my readings, but I'm not.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
so he is a psychologist as well. I'm not sure how old some of his work is on the collective unconscious, but it definitely was something that like kind of intertwined with the idea of past lives
Okay.
that I wanted to look into. There's another book called Other Lives, Other Selves, and it's written by Roger Woolger. And it says it explores past life regression from a Jungian psychotherapy perspective, and it offers insights into how past life memories may influence present behaviors. Then there is another book that has it's 20 cases suggestive of reincarnation. And this is a text that like literally talks about reincarnation studies, documentations, cases where children recall past lives, and all verifiable data. That
Whoa.
is something that I'm really interested in because when I read this, I'm like, okay, so now I've heard Catherine's story, but I'm like, what other stories are out there?
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Because this can't be the only story that's well documented. I mean,
Right.
probably one of the most legitimate sources,
Mm
but there's got to be other stories. And I've always believed in reincarnation as well.
hmm. Mm
I
hmm.
firmly believe that, people have old souls. There's people
Yeah.
like little kids that just have old souls and you know it and you could feel it and you're like, oh, but you don't know where they came from.
Yeah, for sure.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. Something else from the book is like I liked the idea of the people that you keep close to you in your inner circle, for lack of a better word, those souls you can usually identify in past lives. Maybe not like
Oh, I
if
forgot
your
about
son
that part of
here
it.
is your son
Mhm.
in a past life, but it could be like your son here is your neighbor or a close
Right.
friend
I
or
I
a
totally
cousin.
forgot about that aspect of it. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, like the people closest to you have been in your past lives, whether it's in the same role or not. You've been around each other before, which is wild,
Mhm. Yeah.
which is probably why when you meet someone, you have connections with them like instantly.
Right.
Where you're like, no, like, oh man, I vibe off this person's energy. I feel good around them. It's
Mhm.
probably because you've been around them before and you have a deeper connection than you even will ever know?
Yeah, there's like an extra layer of comfortability that you don't even
Yeah.
realize.
That's crazy. I just looked and there's some places where you can do it like via Zoom, the therapy, and I'm like, I just go back to the tarot card reader that said those are things that you need to do in person. Like I
Yeah.
can't imagine, I don't know, but that's different. That's more hypnotizing than,
Mhm.
do you think
Yeah.
you're capable of being hypnotized?
Believe that everybody is probably capable of being hypnotized, but I know that the one time that it was offered to me in therapy, I refused it
Really? Why?
because I was terrified.
Oh, okay. Many, many years ago, probably like 30 years ago, we were in Vegas, and in Vegas you do weird stuff.
Yeah.
We went to see this hypnotist, and it was like an X-rated hypnotist.
Oh, okay.
So, we're all in the audience, and he was talking and telling people if they felt relaxed and, to put their head down. Like he was hypnotizing the whole audience.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Oh my god, I feel like this." I mean, it could have happened to me. I know it. I felt it. It was happening. And I'm like, "Nope, nope, 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 nope. I'm not going to have this guy hypnotize me, and then I'm going to say like crazy ass shit because of my trauma, and then my friends are never going to let me live this down." And
Right.
so I was like, "Nope." But at that point I knew. I'm like, "Oh, I totally could be hypnotized." I
Yeah.
knew it. I felt like down a tunnel I was following his voice,
Yeah.
and then you
So,
know
and really, I think about meditation. I do a lot of guided meditation because my brain won't ever shut the fuck up.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I find myself almost hypnotizing myself when
Really?
I get into deep enough meditation. Because it's like following a strand,
It
but
is.
when you're doing meditation, you're following that strand into yourself versus someone hypnotizing, you're following that strand to that other person,
Right.
is what I think
Yeah.
the difference is.
Yeah.
So, but like,
Interesting.
yeah, meditation, I have had complete out of body experiences doing meditations.
Really?
I
So,
just did one,
since we started this journey, or
yes, never before.
really?
Not until I
Okay.
started trying. But
Holy cow.
I just did that broom camp, and it was like
For
a
this
3-day
from the
workshop.
Sisters Enchanted?
No, this is from a bruja, she's a Mexican witch,
Oh, okay. I think you
and
sent me that, and I'm
yeah,
sorry.
so
Yeah.
I did it, and I did it because right now for me, one of my things that I'm exploring is connecting with ancestors.
Okay.
And so on day one, she had us do this meditation, a guided meditation where she had us like basically it was bringing our energy down to the core of the earth, drawing upon that and bringing the earth's energy back up into ourselves, and then visualizing yourself going up into what she called the source, which is what they call it in the book too, the source, like the collective souls. So she said, imagine yourself reaching up for the source and then drawing upon that and drawing it back down into you. And I felt like a green light was coming up from the earth into my body and like a blue light was coming down onto my body.
Holy shit.
Yes, and I felt it. And I started crying because it was just such
Wow.
an overwhelming feeling,
Right.
and it's because I really really focused. I listened to her voice. I let her guide me to that feeling, and like so for me that's how it was visualized. And then like
Wow.
she
That's
said everybody
crazy.
put in the chat like how do you feel, what did you experience, and like everybody's was different, but
Right.
everybody was extremely intense, and multiple people said they cried. So I was like,
Wow.
"All right,
I
I don't
I
feel like
could
a
see
little
that.
bitch then."
I could see that. There's been plenty of times
Yeah.
where I've been just like overwhelmed and had such like a rush of emotions where I
Mhm.
cried because I didn't know what else to do. And
Yeah.
it's like a joyful cry. It's not like a sad
Yeah.
cry. It's like it's a joyful cry that you've just experienced something really beautiful, right?
Yeah, for
Oh
sure.
my
That's how
God,
I
that's so
felt, and, like,
cool.
when I came out of it, I was like, "I never knew that I had that in me." You know what I
So
mean? Like,
cool. Yeah.
having that feeling that it left me with. And here's my thought: I don't care if it's bullshit. It brought me joy. It made me feel something, whether that was just my
Well, I
brain
don't think
tricking
it's
myself.
bullshit, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, there's people out there that can say that it is, but time and time again, we talk about the power of your own mind.
Mhm.
And if you're able to relax it to get to that level, that's crazy.
Yeah,
That's another goal of mine is to achieve a higher meditative state. I
yeah,
feel like I for years I've meditated, but I don't think I've ever achieved a state of like total clear mind. Like I can sit there and I can, feel like I'm clearing my mind, but then all of a sudden my grocery list comes into mind and then my to-do list comes back forward again. And
yeah.
then I mean, it's a life being a mom and
Mhm.
being everybody else's everything. It's really hard to clear your mind completely and get to that higher state. So what a cool fucking experience that must have been for you. Holy shit.
It was cool.
Oh
Yeah,
my God, that's awesome. I'm so happy that you got to experience something like that.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
so I it's something, and like I don't think I like actively meditate a lot, but I read something recently that was saying don't like downplay your quiet meditations. You don't have to be completely plugged in or feel like that overwhelming sense of something. Sometimes just reading a book, sitting quietly, like things like that. Those are also beautiful meditative moments that you should cherish. And I was like, I never
Sure.
really thought about it like that.
Yeah, it's not always sitting Indian style on your a floor,
Yeah.
it is about things that bring you calm and help you clear out the daily routines. It definitely is. And I need to appreciate those calmer moments as well too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I do
Gosh.
too. It's because I'm constantly like, what's next?
Mhm.
What's next? What's next?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
wish I
I
would do it more, but I think I'm gonna start doing like at least once a week. I have to do 30 minutes of sitting quiet, even if it's just sitting quietly or doing a guided meditation or whatever,
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
a good goal to have. Not like 30 minutes a day, like just 30 minutes a
Yeah, I
week. Like that
can't.
is it's a good, but I'm very much like you in that sense. I absorb information. I've completed a task, and for me, what's next? If there's nothing
Mhm.
next, I need that purpose. I need to keep learning. I need to keep finding. So when nothing is next, I feel lost.
Yeah, same here.
I
Same
really,
here.
really feel
And I think
lost.
it's why I have so many hobbies.
Me too.
Because and it's like sometimes I'll sit around and I have like 8 different things I could be doing and I'm just like, but I don't know which one I want to do because none of them is bringing me that purpose feeling, you know?
Right. Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I know exactly that feeling, yeah, that's crazy. I don't think I mean, I try to think like, "Oh, I don't have too many hobbies," but I mean, I crochet, I read, I travel, oh,
Yeah.
maybe I do have I research for this podcast. I have a podcast.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, you know, maybe I do have a few hobbies more than the average person, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's that now what? Because I can't be still. I mean, my best friend will tease me. She's like, "Do you ever just sit?" And I'm like, "No, because in my mind, there's another task I should be doing.
for sure.
I can't relax unless relaxing is on my list." You
Mhm.
know, like
Yeah,
I can't check it off, so I can't do it, but I can't
right.
relax if I have 20 other things that I'm trying to accomplish. So I'm
For
like,
sure.
yeah.
I know that there is like a lot of critics and skeptics about hypnotherapy and past lives and reincarnation. I think a lot of it maybe comes from like just the idea that you're supposed to believe in God, you know, and believing in that would completely X out this kind of a belief for some
Right.
people. But
Yeah.
there's also something I came across when I was kind of looking into different like viewpoints. And there's something called cryptomnesia, And like a lot of scholars will argue that past life memories stem from cryptomnesia, which is subconscious recollections mistaken for past life experiences, which I've never heard of the term.
No.
But I think that in order to objectively decide whether or not this was something that I believed in, I was like, so what are the people saying against it?
Right.
And so really I found a lot, it was mostly God, heaven and hell. That's the way it is.
So it's
But yeah, so
mostly
there was
religious
that
people
too.
that have the negativity against it, or?
Yeah. Yeah, for
Okay.
the most part.
I don't understand that quite. So basically, it's a false memory?
What it's saying is like your subconscious is recalling things that have happened or happened to, like you heard about it on TV, or you heard a conversation at the grocery store, and then when you go into these hypnotic experiences, that's what you're recalling, and
Oh,
not necessarily like something from a past life.
okay. That's interesting. That's
And definitely possible.
possible. I guess it would depend on how the hypnotist is approaching asking you questions because, if it's a conversation you overheard, I feel like you would have to be really prompted. Once again, what the most I know is what I seen in Vegas and what I see on TV shows bring you back to a situation. And if you're in a room, they're like, now, is there a door? And then they guide you to the door and then they guide you to open it. So if you overheard a conversation at the grocery store, they would lead you to the grocery store, down the aisle, to the food section to
No.
overhear that conversation.
What they're saying is, so you're doing it subconsciously. So it's not like you would go back and see that conversation happening. It's like your brain doesn't separate the fact that that's not a memory you have. So it's just something that pops to your head, like when you're in a hypnotic state.
Okay.
But to me, especially with Catherine's case, she knew in depth knowledge about things that she didn't know about in her current life,
It's,
war, being a soldier.
didn't she know a different language?
Yes, she spoke different languages.
Yeah.
And like at
It's
first
been
I
a
was like,
while since I read it.
I guess maybe she did know it and then didn't want to tell the therapist that she did know that language. But when you
Maybe.
put all of the pieces of Catherine's story together, I don't believe that anymore. But that was definitely something that popped in my head. Like, well, what if she's not telling the truth? You
Hmm.
know?
I felt like that too in the book because that natural skeptic in me, when I remember first reading it and I'm like, well, what if she's just making all this stuff up? And the psychiatrist is thinking she's legit. But as it progresses and more things unravel and they build on each other,
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Oh my
think
God.
any, I don't
We got to
think
talk
any,
about the sun thing. Do you
okay.
remember?
Oh, I don't know if I do.
She
Her
busted
son?
out No, she busted out one day when she was in a session and she was with the masters. She started
Do
talking
remember
about
now.
the death of his newborn son.
Yes.
And she
Yes.
didn't know. She didn't know about him
Right.
or that he had passed on or anything. And that was, I got goosebumps when that shit happened.
Right. I
And
do
she
remember that
actually
now.
told him that his son died. She said something about pain for his parents' death, or no, I have it written down. Hold on.
I wish I would have
Oh,
went
yeah.
back and reread it.
She told the doctor about his son's soul. It was very advanced. He made a great sacrifice of love by passing on to pay his parents' debts and teach the lesson that medical practice has limitations. His son died at 23 days old prior to him having Catherine as a client.
Right. Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
thought that was interesting. To me, that lended to the credibility of the idea that there is something deeper,
Right. And this book, it was written in 1988. So it's not like she could go in and Google him and
right?
find out his biography or Google obituaries, or you know what I'm saying? It was 1988. There wasn't even, I don't even think there was Google or
There wasn't,
AOL.
because the first computers were when I was little, because we had the dial-up noises and
And
the
probably
computer
the
that took an
90s,
hour to
right?
start on in the 90s, yeah.
Right. So this is pre-internet stalking.
Mhm.
So it's not like she could have found that information unless by some small weird chance she lived in the same city. Well, probably did live in the same city as him. Maybe that's why she was there. But maybe she, saw an obituary or something in the newspaper and it stuck out, but I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think that to me also was something that reaffirmed the legitimateness of her situation and his, helping her.
Yeah.
God,
Well, and I
yeah, I
mean,
almost
the
forgot about that part.
I wanna say he even mentioned that before his son's death, he did kind of look at medicine like this cure all, and it
Yeah,
was the first time that it had like occurred to him that it wasn't infallible, you know? Crazy shit, man.
it just opens your mind to more. I want to know more. I want to,
Yeah.
just so great. I do recommend anyone that's curious about past lives or where your soul goes or anything like that to read this book because it's absolutely fascinating. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's been a classic for decades now, and so many people recommend it, and
Mhm.
it's part of many teachings, and it's incredible. It's just another way to think of our soul.
Yeah. And the other thing too that I guess kind of maybe gave me a little bit of comfort was the idea that the book put forth, which was that fear and suffering really are only temporary, and like pain kind of serves as a teacher that guides us towards enlightenment, which sucks because it means we have to experience the pain.
Right.
But let's be honest, those of us who have been through trauma, we grow up a lot quicker, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, 100%. Mhm.
So, and you
You
look at
have
life with
to.
a different lens. And like, it can make or break you.
Yeah. Mhm. I make this reference to my best friend because she had wonderful parents. She has this beautiful family, I mean, extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins. Like, they're just great, fantastic, loving people. And I always say to her, I'm horror and you're Hallmark.
Yeah.
Because It's it is like, like if I had a preference, I'd be watching a horror movie, she'd be watching a Hallmark movie because everything works out in the end and everything's happy. To me, the horror movie is more relatable because everything's fucked up.
Realistic,
It's more
yeah.
realistic, you know?
And
So I
that's
always
why I
say
like
that.
horror.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm horror, you're Hallmark. I mean, that's the way it
I
is.
never thought about it like that, but you're so fucking right.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what else this book reminded me too was back to when we were talking about Haitian Voduo. And remember there's the idea that your soul is two different parts. It's the guo bananj and the ti bananj. And the guo bananj is the part that is the consciousness, the memories, stuff like that. That is the part that leaves your body so that you can be possessed by one of the loas. Remember, they also said that when you go to sleep, your guo bananj travels.
Right.
And so that kind of correlated to me while I was reading early on in this book. And then the other thing that it kind of made me think about is our discussion with Minerva about dreams.
Right. To go to like other realm.
Yeah.
Telling you, it's all like interconnected, and
Mhm.
there's a piece of it here and a piece of it there and a piece of it there. And it's so weird how one culture takes a little bit of it and another culture takes another bit of it, but it's essentially all the same.
Yeah.
Maybe some just more, like more elaborate than others,
Yeah.
but
And I think some
that's,
maybe put different significance on different
yeah,
pieces, but that's a common theme that I have continued to go back to is everything that I look into, it all technically really relates back to the same idea. It's just
right.
the way that people perceive it and the way that people explain it and the way that people experience it is different.
Yeah. Wow. It's crazy. It
Mhm.
really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts that you'd like to share? Gonna go back and reread this. It's been like a month since I've got the book back from you, and I'm like, I'm gonna reread it. I really haven't had time. I
Yeah.
just, and then I feel bad because I haven't had time because I'm like, it's not that. it's not a challenging book to read. It's really like I could probably read it in a weekend, but every weekend I've had something going on now because it's summer and
Yeah.
I just want to reread it because I read it the first time to see what all the hype was about, and
Mhm.
then I'd like to reread it so things resonate with me a little bit more. I mean, I know I took a lot away from it because it has honestly changed the way I think now. But I would also like to, just dig a little bit deeper in it, like why.
Mhm.
So,
The
okay.
other thing that I was thinking about too is like the idea of astral projection. So, astral projection technically is the belief that your consciousness can separate from your physical body and travel beyond earthly realms.
Which is a part of voodoo that we talked about, right? Or no?
Yeah. So it was kind of something like the idea of astral projection was something that popped into my head reading this book when they talked
Mhm.
about like the idea of soul travel and stuff that, and like even like the between lives time. I thought was really interesting. There's like a time of like relaxation, resting, gaining new knowledge, unpacking any traumas that you might have experienced from your past life, and then when you're ready, you move on to your next life. But yeah, so that made me think about astral projection, and then that's when I thought about the Haitian Voduo again.
Right, yeah. These religions are just steeped with all of the same things, but just a little bit differently, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's just maybe how someone experienced it and was able to explain how they experienced it that changes, you know?
Yeah,
S-
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think a lot of times too, I think that people experience things that maybe their minds are not necessarily prepared or mature enough to understand. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who maybe isn't as far along in their lives may experience or have different idea about the exact same experience that you have. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Hmm. Oh, yeah, they definitely may take it more as a learning experience, whereas I couldn't, you know? I
Mhm.
couldn't see the value in it. I may only see the trauma in it.
Yeah, so it made me think about maybe I'm further along in my physical lives than that person. I'm going to go back to politics. No matter how hard you try, no matter how logical you come at an argument, sometimes people just can't grasp it. And you have to accept that. And that was something that like struck me. Maybe they are not as old as I am. you know?
Right. Right. Yeah, which is true because with knowledge, it's based on experience, right?
Mhm.
So, man, I man, your soul might be older than mine.
I don't know about that because you and I are definitely we're linked. We've been together in past lives.
Yeah,
Because
I think so too.
we had that immediate like comfortability,
Right.
you know.
Yes, I think so too. Wouldn't it be cool if we could do like a session and figure out how we knew each other in past lives? Like
That would be amazing.
that would that would just blow my mind, really. That would be
Mhm.
so cool, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I thought about too like my kids like I wonder I birthed these children so they're in my life forever. So,
Right.
you know,
Mhm. Yeah,
so like I did think about that while I was reading like I wonder who they were to me in past lives.
right. We could go down a rabbit hole thinking about those things because
Yeah.
that
And then even like my mom, okay? So her mom died when she was 5 years old. So she never had a mom. And she says all the time that in a way I kind of raised her too because I
sure.
taught her. She's like, you sometimes the things that you say to me, like, I just don't understand how you know that, how you can be so insightful about certain things, you know?
Right.
In the book, they talk about sometimes you're in somebody's life because they need you, you know?
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. And I think that's something that I noticed about you right away because there is an age gap between us, but you are
mhm,
so insightful where, you don't have a mind of a 30-year-old. You
yeah.
actually think intelligently, you think critically,
Mhm.
and I definitely think you have an older soul than your actual body. It may
Yeah,
not
I
be
think
as
so too.
old as mine, but I think you
Yeah.
you do for
And
sure.
I've always said that and that's like I've heard that my entire life
That you have
that
an
like
old soul.
I am a more mature person than my physical age.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I've definitely heard that too. But a lot of mine I always took growing up is because I had to fend for myself at an early age, and then I had my daughter and I was a single parent, so I
and
had to
that's what
handle
I've
shit.
always attributed it to as well cuz
Hmm.
I had my first kid at 16, so it was like time to grow up. You don't have a
Right.
choice. It's
Yeah,
just what you had to do. But even like I think looking back maybe don't give myself enough credit for that because there are teen moms who fucking failed, you know?
absolutely. I know you don't give yourself enough credit, and I know I didn't give myself enough credit.
Mhm.
I mean, I was a single parent who came from a real shitty background, and I raised my kid. Like, she got to go on vacation. She was in Girl Scouts, played sports. She was loved. She was fed. She never went to bed with her belly empty. Like,
Mhm.
that's a huge accomplishment for someone that grew up like crap for me.
Yeah.
And I don't ever give myself enough credit for it. I know it. And
Right.
but that's something that we learned from the Sister Enchanted. We as women, people are always wondering how we manage our time, but then we're not giving ourselves enough grace, right?
Mhm.
Like, yeah, we
Yep.
we
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 take
do.
care of everybody else. We fill everybody else's cup, and then we very frequently forget to fill our own. And
Yes.
I have ever since I became a single mom after I left the shithead. That was when I taught myself that I matter and that in order to be a good mom to these kids, I had to be okay with myself. And if I don't prioritize myself, I can't be a good mom. So that was when it's changed. Up until that point, I had always put kids, partner, me. I was third. So I reprioritized and I am first. Even today, I am first.
Well, you have
And
to be.
mhm, because if I am not healthy in my own head, I can't communicate effectively, I can't mother effectively, I can't be a good wife, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think for me, growing up generationally, it was selfish of a mom to put herself first,
Yes.
her needs first. Like, how dare you put your needs first when you have children and a husband? But everybody fails to realize a mom needs to put herself first because she needs to be in her best health to provide for everybody else like she
Right.
is.
And
But
and even now today, because I say that loud and proud, and I still get people that judge me for it. I try not to give a shit about
yeah,
what outsiders think.
right,
It
for
works for
sure.
my family. I have happy kids. I have a happy marriage.
And you know
7
what?
years yesterday.
The
Yeah.
anniversary.
Thank
Oh
you.
my gosh. And you have happy kids, you have a happy marriage. That's all that matters. All
Right.
that noise on the outside of your house does not even matter.
Yeah, and, like, sometimes it seeps in and makes me feel crappy, but for the most part, as long as the people inside these walls are happy, I don't give a fuck.
Right. And I know, now it's a huge thing with, social media where people are pretending to have these perfect lives when they don't.
Mhm.
And I wish people could be more honest that they don't have perfect lives, but instead they're just putting all this good, happy content out there, and then they're not really admitting that they're tired and unhappy and are
Yeah,
struggling to pay their bills. We need to see more of that, you
yeah.
know?
Shit, how many morbid episodes have started with, "From the outside, they seemed like the perfect
Like,
couple."
yes. A and how episode of almost anything starts
Yeah,
like
all
that,
true
you know?
crime, yeah.
Like, everybody thought they were the perfect couple. They met
Right.
in college, and it's like, "No." But those are the people that not all, but the majority of the people that are out there pretending like everything's great, and they're handling it
Mhm.
all, and this is the roles that everybody should be in, but yet their shit's crazy in their house.
Yeah.
No one's content. Yeah,
Yep.
it's craziness.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Hex Haven. If you enjoyed our content, please consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. We appreciate your support, and if you have any topic suggestions, feel free to share them with us at hexhavenpodcast@gmail.com. We'll see you next time.